Good morning. Happy happy Sunday. It's bright and sunny. Chill. I walked the dog. I just had a cinnamon roll. Caitlin's all gussied up, and
Yeah,
I'm a little stuffy.
I'm stuffy because the wildfires in Middleton
Oh yeah,
are like it's all about land management, guys. You gotta pick up the leaves, okay?
yeah.
Like you gotta pick up the leaves.
I'm gonna do mine tomorrow. I did a bunch already, but yeah,
We
keep
just
them.
haven't had any rain. So everything's super dry around here.
Yeah, it's easier to pick up the leaves though.
It is. When it is dry, it's easier to pick them up, but like a lot of people didn't, and the leaves kind of fell. I mean, right on time, I would say, right?
A little early for all of them. Well, late then all at once.
Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of how it went this year. But if you're the man of the house, you got to get out there and
Get out there, Jeff.
rake your shit up. All right, today we are going to talk about once again our dear friend Jonah Goldberg. Um, you know what?
So,
I should tag. We should cut a little video into and tag Blame Big Government, who is a mask guy. And
I just want to throw it out there, Jeff, that like years ago when we started all of this, what did we talk about? Like how we were the normals, and then
mm-hmm.
who tailed in on that thought? Who is in major conservative media?
Yeah, Jonah.
Goldberg.
I mean, look,
So like, and I would say that you and I could kind of foresee a second Trump presidency from the debate, at least,
mm-hmm.
right? Like we saw the polling before and we were like, oh shit, like it's pretty bad. But then like after the
But well,
debate, that kind of
oh yeah,
cemented a lot of things.
right, right. I think that's fair. Uh, I I've never. Well, I'll say this on the Patreon, and if this episode leaks, so be it. Jonah Goldberg's wife worked for Nikki Haley. Okay, and you cannot discount what that can do to somebody who it's like you're sort of on the same side, but it's like, well, my side is but it's I want to be running things, and what's happening now is some of the people that want to be heard, taken seriously, listened to, and have influence on the people in Washington are no longer going to be able to do so. And they had for, say, 30, 40 years. And it's just kind of done. I will say there are some notable exceptions. That would be, well, but no, that notable exception would be the folks at National Review, because they've been pretty fair about the thing the whole time. Rich Lowry, Michael Brennan Doherty, countering that with Noah Rothman, who they brought on last year or two, and Charles C.W. Cook, who all bring up very salient, cogent
And
points.
we still like no Roth, guys. Like
Yeah, it's
Roth.
fine. I get it. It's cool, like, to point out the flaws of Trump, because there's many, and we should, and we're going to continue to. We will continue to, but you have to recognize what's taking place, and what's taking place is, whether you like it or not. And I'm kind of on the side of not a non-interventionist, and I will say isolationist foreign policy is taking shape. It is influenced by what happened in Iraq, not so much Afghanistan. It is influenced by, everybody's got a big hangover from that, and I can't say I blame them.
But I also think it's a reaction to the rise of these new superpowers, right? Because during the Obama years, he set us on a track of retreat, right? As the main or what he thought. Okay, like what he thought. I want to say that we're still the main hegemonic superpower in the world, okay? But he thought that our power was diminished by the invasion of Iraq. And so when he came onto the scene, when he was elected in 2008, you remember the old apology tour,
Yeah,
Jeff?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and when that happened, you see this rise of supposed, and I would say it was a very privileged point of view, that liberal democracy, the liberal international order. And I'm not saying this in conspiracy terms, that's what it is, right? Like, when you see like Eastern or
Small,
Western Europe like get together in the EU and we meet with the G7 and all of this. I'm talking about these groups right here.
small L liberalism. Yes.
Exactly. I'm not speaking about it in these terms. It's just basic foreign policy. The United Nations is like that. Like they think that we're all on the same level and all of this other stuff. And there's issues that rise when you have that, right? And so Obama put us on this path. I think that we have to say that, we have to acknowledge it. But you see Russia and China rise. And so where does that put us? Right? Like, so I see with the invasion of Ukraine, and Jeff and I talked about the invasion of Ukraine on the open and Patreon episodes because we
I,
talked about we talked about the Russian military equipment on the line and whether or not they were going to go in, and I said they were going in.
and I said I didn't think they. I just didn't think they would, but I was wrong. And the problem that's come up recently, I think, with our party, and I blame this on this is leftist thinking. First of all, you start from the premise that America is wrong in their foreign entanglements.
And I don't think
Debate.
we're wrong. I don't think that we're wrong.
Well,
So
I mean, depending on the situation, it could be yes or no. It's very Noam Chomsky-esque, where it's like he talks about what is it? Maybe it was Haiti or somewhere in South America, where he's like, well, we invaded, but we didn't invade, and then we don't have the right to do that. And it's like he leaves out the part that the communists were trying to take over the country, and we're like, we're not putting communists in the Western Hemisphere. Done. It's not happening. And
right.
Chomsky would always leave that convenient fact out, right? So that's what you're getting.
It's like all the historians that leave out that like I don't know, the Soviet Union perpetuated some of the worst genocides
Yes, exactly,
in modern
exactly,
history.
exactly. So,
And
well,
so
we have Dave Smith right now, comic Dave Smith. He was just on Rogan the
uh,
other day, and he's one
it's
of the
like
worst. He's one of the
the libertarian leftist
yeah,
alignment on this is like, it's
and
hard to watch because it's like you people don't get it and you think you get it and
yeah,
you're on the side of the
and,
isolationists,
and
but
the
you're still getting it wrong because Russia and China are still getting stronger. And I don't take it from an isolationist point of view. I'm looking at the next conflict, right? So we knew that Ukraine was going to happen. I mean, good Lord, Putin was putting in place what was going to happen 10 years before by buddying up with Angela Merkel. You all know that I hate Germany. With a fiery passion, like their arrogance is like so crazy, horrific country, awful people. But, it's like that. So we cannot allow this Russian influence to affect anything in the United States. We cannot allow influence from Beijing to affect anything in the United States. What I saw with the pandemic, I saw influence where we couldn't even speak poorly of China because it was racist to talk about the pandemic in a way
yeah,
where it started there. It did start there. And I have no problem stating such very clearly.
yeah.
And Russia should not have gone into Ukraine. Like,
Well, that's the thing. So it's funny. I caught the whole episode with Dave Smith. I was just had Rogan on the other day during my commute both ways. So it was like 2 hours or whatever. But he Smith is basically like Ukraine provoked them. There was a peace deal before he invaded. Like invaded. He conveniently sweeps that aside. That said, look, I won't go in if you say you're not going to allow Ukraine to join NATO. It's like the whole purpose of NATO is to blunt Russian aggression. That's why it exists, because they fucking invade places. And then you're like, okay, we won't invade if you say you're not going to join NATO. And they're like, no, we're not going to say that. We want to join NATO because we don't want you to invade. Okay, well, then I'm invading. It's like you proved the point. It's a counterfactual that proved the actual point. And Dave Smith, he's sort of smart enough to know this, but he's just like, I just don't want no more wars, man. No more wars. It's like, okay, man, you want to morally bully everybody and say this. So unfortunately,
right? That's what they do.
Yeah.
They try to take both sides of the argument, and then they'll say, well, it's America's fault. No, it's fucking not.
Yeah.
It is not America's fault. America is more than its government. It's its people as well. So first of all, fuck you. And second of all, it's not always that. I'm sorry, but Russia invading Ukraine is not moral and just. It happened because Putin was spreading around basically InfoWars conspiracy theories on Russian media and got their population behind it because he has some deluded, idiotic thing that Ukraine wanted to be liberated from the West, which is not the direction that Ukraine has been going since the early 90s when, I don't know, the Soviet Union fell after almost 100 years of oppressive Soviet control.
And none of
I don't know the libertarians don't get that.
But here,
remember that the Soviet Union was around for 100 years and it was fucking communist.
So what you have now, though, is if to sort of bring it back a little bit to the topic, you have the J.D. Vances of the world who agree with that mindset, the Tulsi Gabbards of the world, and these are serious people. And don't get me wrong, these are serious points. There's a lot of weight to the point. They're like, no, we should not be getting involved. Let Ukraine do whatever. Let Putin do whatever. We shouldn't get involved. We shouldn't get involved. Okay, it's a legitimate point. One I disagree with. I don't think we need to have our troops fighting that war. Of course not. That's the line. No boots on the ground. But we can certainly send them stuff to kill the Russians. And nobody ever asks the Ukrainians what they think. It's funny. Dave Smith, for all his arrogance in knowing these issues so very, very well, does he ever speak to any people in Ukraine or people from Ukraine or people with family members in Ukraine? No, because they don't see it the way that he does. But he is an influential. He's talking to Rogan. Rogan's the biggest podcast in the world. I don't know. I don't think the folks at the Daily Wire would agree with that, but certainly Tucker Carlson would agree with Dave Smith. Who are some others that are, I'd say, influential and prominent? They're just basically no more war crowd. The morally bullying no more war crowd. But that is going to isolate the traditional three-legged stool of Reagan conservatism. Or at least that pillar of it anyway. And then I get a little bit nervous when I hear Vance talk about a lot of big government programs and just sort of making the welfare state a little more robust rather than cutting it and giving people the dignity of work because of, his influence on the hillbilly elegy stuff. Those things don't work. So it's like people are already talking Vance 2028. It's like, okay, man, see what happens because that stuff does not work. And we're going to see what the media influence. I think NRO has been strong, will stand around. Daily Wire is going to be strong. And then the Candace Owens of the world will float away.
Look at what Tucker's doing now. He's talking about aliens on his podcast on X. He's not even talking about politics. And he's not really a major factor except maybe behind the scenes to meet him.
I think he may continue to be him. I think he might have another. We'll see what happens what he does and how he performs. But he thinks that demons are not aliens. He doesn't think they're aliens. You know that?
No,
right?
he did. He
thinks they're demons.
No, he did one on demons and he did one on aliens. He did 2 different episodes.
I thought he thinks the aliens are demons.
I thought he said that he fought with a demon in his house, which is nuts.
Yeah. I mean, unless he actually did.
It's wow, you think so highly of your wife.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He like is well known for being very family protected.
No,
That's
he
just a joke.
he's look, he's just gotten wackier, and I don't think he's a bad person. I think he just has some bad ideas now. I think that. So anyway, you got a lot of people who are going to be out in the wilderness. It's not Tucker. He'll be stick around for a little bit. I don't know. I mean, the bulwark people,
Oh
the
God.
the Democrats aren't going to. They've even talked about it. Jen Psaki is like, "What do we get away from these people? They're done." And they're not coming back
He
to the
did.
right. They got to start to like learn to code or learn a
Wait a
trade.
minute. Jen Psaki said get away from the Bulwark people?
Um, I believe so. Yeah, she said we. I don't know why we were even trying to court. I saw a clip of her why we were trying to court the never Trump GOP vote. That was the dumbest thing in the world, and I'm pretty sure I saw that clip. Um,
Well, no,
so
they pandered it. They pandered to it pretty hard, right?
she
Like,
was saying they shouldn't have.
yeah, but she personally was pandering to it. Like, it's like, so you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have done all of those interviews, all those things that you did, like
Yeah,
the entire time.
the whole Lincoln Project.
I mean, you also are an MSNBC like
Mm,
anchor, I guess now. So, are you admitting that you were campaigning for Kamala Harris on MSNBC? Oh my gosh, I'm so shocked.
yeah. Uh, I think I was. I'll tag. When we finish recording this, I'll do a quick. We'll do a quick little live spot. I want to tag Blame McGovernment because he and I go back and forth in this because we are fans of Jonah Goldberg, but Jonah is sort of the last holdout of not going to that other side of call it David French or Bill Kristol. Like he's still sort of there, but it's getting close to the point where he's not. And
I don't
it's a
know
real
if
shame. I don't know if he ever will, but it's a real
I
shame.
don't know if he'll ever cross. The reason why I say that is that I think that Jonah Goldberg actually believes in what he believes in. I'm going to say that. And I think that he holds out hope um, in maybe a return to some sort of ethical and moral center within the GOP. I just think that that's not feasible during this time. And I also don't think that we won when that was around as much as you think that we did, because the president does matter and we weren't winning the presidency.
This is true.
Because I don't even think George W. Bush was even, I mean, they did some things on the campaign that it's like, ooh, pretty Trumpy. But it was not running with Donald Trump, right? So, like, I think maybe there's your difference. I think that Jonah, I think out of all of them, he's the most level headed one. I just think that sometimes his own ego gets in the way and he can't take the L in a very concise
Yeah,
and way.
yeah, yeah.
Like, and I think I understand why he doesn't do that because, who wants to take the L? I kind of get that, right? Like,
It's true, but if you're gonna open, you should really think about what you're saying when you do this. If you stick to this is where I somebody did this on Twitter over the last week, where I said I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump in 2020, not in 2016 because I still back then he was definitely my his Democrat tendencies were not proven. We're still around. But we got judges, tax cuts, good economy. Okay. Good enough. Better than it would have been with Clinton, better than it would have been with Biden. And now the problem that they have is you have 8 years of that and you have a comparison. And you can't be like, I said never Trump and I meant it. And I am going to hold to this. But you can't say you like the judges' decision. You can't say you're going to like his economic policies, but would have been better than Kamala Harris's. You can't say, well, I'm okay with the things that I like, but I'm going to sit here and be morally superior and say I'm not going to vote for him, and I'm writing in Paul Ryan. No. You can't sit there and honestly say that his temperament and the way he behaves is a threat to the constitutional order, but it's not. I think If our constitutional order was much, much weaker, possibly, but it's not. The country can handle it. We can
I
handle
think
somebody like Trump.
constitutional order has been tested many times in the past, and it's always come
Mhm.
through, right?
Mhm.
Because again, America is more than its government.
Yeah.
It's more than its constitution. It's the people, and while the people still respect the Constitution, then everything will be fine, right? So, like, that's the way that I that's the reason why, like, the Liz Cheney stuff doesn't resonate with me. Well, first because she sounds like a complete phony when doing it, but also because we're okay. Not everything is a level 11 alarm bell when it comes to Trump.
Which we'll get into in the open episode.
Right.
Yeah. I'll end with this. Some people just aren't getting it, and I don't want to hear a Jonah remnant episode when Alito steps down and they're talking about judges and who would be the better judge and what their judicial philosophy is, because none of that would have existed if Donald
When
Trump didn't get elected. Like, so you
I
can't.
mean, you think about it this way, guys, and again, I tend to vote on Supreme Court. I actually do tend to vote based on judges and who chooses the judges and all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
Um, I was voting Donald Trump. I mean, I voted for Donald Trump because of other reasons, but like the judges are a big thing because Alito is old and so is Clarence Thomas, and I think that they deserve to be able to retire and be replaced by conservative judges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, that has become a thing. So yeah, I mean, when we get up to that fight, and it will happen, right? At least with Alito first, probably. I would be shocked if it was Thomas, but you never know. What they say is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to be listening to them. Because if I hear things from like David French, and it's like, pick for unity of the country, pick the liberal or some bullshit.
Yeah, right. Give me a fuck. It's just you're nowhere. No one's who's listening to that.
No.
Who's subscribing? Who's paying for that? Is there this small cadre of people that still live in a world that it's 2015? It's just it changed. It's different this time. I talked to a friend who voted Republican, pretty conservative. He texted me after. He's like, "How do we feel about this?" And I'm like, "Good." I'm like, "It's different
Fine.
now." I'm like, "Good. It's different now." I texted him back. He's like, "I agree. It is different now. It's different now. It's just for all the stuff. It's sort of like." We gotten through it, and we're gonna see, and I think it'll be more like a Herbert Walker Bush presidency, just slightly center right presidency, without a lot of foreign intervention. All right, we're gonna hop on over to the open episode. I'm gonna cut a quick video because I do want to tag blame big government and let them know that we did this Patreon. And well, as always, Patreon subscribers, thank you. Thank you, Spooky, for comments. Thank you to everybody who watches and subscribes. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.